Hi, good morning. If you're watching this video, you're probably already a partner of Zebra's, and maybe even more specifically, a partner of mine. Earlier this week, I was able to sit down with Michelle Kabele and ask her a bunch of different questions on best practices in partner rep marketing. And when I say partner rep marketing, I'm talking about actually these salespeople out in the field and some best practices for them to help get in earlier with buyers and become more top of mind with some of the buyers or some of their customers. A lot of you may already be familiar with Michelle because she's presented pretty regularly at various partner events that I've had in the territory over the past few years. Her presentations are consistently the presentations that are asked for the most because they resonate with people in the room. I put together videos like this on a fairly regular basis. If you think this kind of content is helpful and informative, please click the subscribe button. And now on to my discussion with Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for sitting down with me today. You do such a great job of relating this type of information to myself and my partners. How would you define the buyer's journey? I mean, the name's kind of relatively new, it seems. It's becoming a bit of a buzzword, although the actual idea of a buyer going through a journey in their decision-making process goes on for as long as there's been sales.
Right. Oh, well, I think it's becoming more prevalent when you look at the digital marketing that's available with the internet. I mean, if you think about it, now there's so much information at any time where you're looking for information, comparing items, looking at prices. It's all right there at your fingertips 24/7. So the journey has become more prevalent. It's really a discussion about making sure you have enough content that as the buyer goes through all of those phases of their purchasing choice, that they can find information about you. I mean, let's take a look at historically, when you wanted information on a product, you would call up a reseller and they would be the expert at helping answer all of your questions. Pulling out a data sheet, pulling out a white paper, basically at every phase of that purchase choice, they would have the information, setting up a demo, comparing units, they would be the guide. But today the internet has replaced that sales function, and now the end user is really in charge of their journey in terms of finding information. So they may not contact a reseller or any type of salesperson until they're really ready to make the purchasing choice. And it becomes sort of a requirement now that in this journey that the buyers go through, that resellers have all of those pieces of material online, readily available, easily indexed by Google, so that the end users can find them when they're making their purchasing choice. So an example of that might be, 67% of the companies that have blogs actually increase their sales by a significant percentage. Some say upwards of 434%. True number based on a recent study I read. And if you think about that, it's the ability of that user to find that thought leadership information on a topic that's of interest to them. So if you just look at any type of things that you're buying, and you might say printer speed or scanning capability, distance from the scanning device to the crate or the container of that product, or a lot of the devices have extreme cold support, right? Mm-hmm. How can it be, how cold can this device handle, and for how long? How long is the battery life on this device versus that device? What's the drop test spec on this versus that? And these are questions the buyer may have as they're going through their journey. I mean, long ago it was, standard stuff where we call up the reseller,
Yeah, the rep.
To ask
You had to go to the rep. You didn't have a choice.
You had to go to the rep.
Most part.
Exactly right. And today it's really all internet. And candidly, look at the videos you're making. I mean, it's really transforming the way not only the buyers experience their journey, but how we consume and understand content. So it's really the reseller who understands how critical that is and utilizes content to be able to be found by that end user who's exploring those questions on their journey.
Right. So basically, I've heard the analogy, or I've heard it stated that many times, there's a salesperson who doesn't even know that they missed out on an opportunity. Right. Because of the fact that their customer never actually engaged them. They never got to that point where they could have used your help to kind of get them over the hump, or they went to maybe one of your competitors without even finding you.
Absolutely true. And they say 60 to 90% of the time the end user is finding that information on the internet. And so if you think about it from a reseller perspective, this is where digital marketing and content marketing, now the big buzzwords of our journey, really become critically important in making sure that we have that information available so that it becomes the virtual salesperson sharing information, so that when the call comes in, typically what you find out, at least based on our research with resellers, is that when end users actually do call in, they've read that material. They actually are.
They're more serious, probably.
They are much more
They've kind of
serious.
qualified themselves.
Absolutely,
so to speak. Okay.
absolutely. And they're actually calling now with finer points of information based on what they read online. So if you think about it from that perspective, it actually helps you shorten your time investment in working with that customer, because now they're much smarter. And if your content is really rich and interesting in terms of the information the end user is looking for, then it's highly likely that A, the end users are really interested in your information are going to find you. B, they're actually going to be much smarter and probably much closer to a purchase decision than in days past, where it might be, hey, I'm interested in this, can you tell me more about it?
Okay.
Now it's, hey, I read your article on blah, 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 and I'm really interested in how it might help me. Or I'd really like to get a demo on the things that I read. How soon can you come out and meet with me? Those are the things that we're seeing from resellers who work with us in terms of blog engagement, emails, videos, and different types of digital content. But it's really understanding that as the buyer goes through their journey of self-discovery, that it's having the right content that's tied to that part of the discovery. Now, the reality is, as we're developing tons and tons of content, we have to develop purposefully with where that buyer is, and they are going to find the content that's most interesting to them based on how we set it up for tagging in Google or in any type of search engine. So that is really the new buyer's journey in the digital world.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Michelle. Appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, of course.